Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new video. Somebody asked me a really good question. It was a request, actually. They had some questions about the blue blocking glasses. They wanted to understand how they work and why we do it when the sun goes down, and if we can do it during the day when the sun's still up. But the emphasis of this email that I received from this individual was an inquiry, for the most part, regarding why do we do it when the sun goes down, and why not maybe like an hour or two after the sun goes down. So a lot of people who are promoting blue blocking at night, they don't seem to put a huge emphasis on doing it once the sun goes down, like immediately 10 to 15 minutes after the sun goes down, which is typically what I do. I don't know if you guys heard that. I don't know what the hell that was. But again, as I was saying, a lot of people who talk about blue blocking glasses for spiking melatonin, which is what these do, don't seem to put a huge emphasis on the timing on when to put them on. So that's really crucial. The timing on when you put them on is really crucial, and I'm going to explain that in just a second. You want to, for one, use the UVEX Skypers over the other brands of blue blockers on the market. So I've tested hundreds of dollars worth of blue blockers, very expensive ones ranging up to $150 a piece. And what you'll find on many of these, ladies and gentlemen, is that they don't have the side shielding like the UVEX Skypers do. So if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, if you don't even know what the UVEX Skypers are, please go back into my video archives or check the links below and watch the videos that I have provided in the description box so that you can have a deeper understanding of what it is I'm talking about. If you let any amount of light into your eyes, the blue light, ladies and gentlemen, which is what we're using these glasses for, to block the blue light, if you let any amount of blue light into your eye when the sun goes down, you are going to throw your body all out of alignment. So the cool thing about the UVEX Skypers, you guys, is that it has, I don't know what's going on with my lighting, it has the side shielding. And the side shielding, it almost like hugs your face, and it makes like a mask of sorts, so that your entire visual range is shielded from the light. That's the whole point of why we're doing this. So with that aside, I just want to dovetail that in and finish that before I go on to the next point. Get the UVEX Skypers. They're 12 bucks. They work great. I haven't come into contact with any other pair that works as good. So this idea that you have to spend an arm and a leg for something to work is absolutely ridiculous. But with that aside, we are putting the blue blockers on when the sun goes down, ladies and gentlemen, because we are trying to mimic the solar cycles that our ancestors did. And what I mean by that is that when the sun went down, our ancestors, there wasn't light anymore. And because of that, their pineal gland, their brain, started to secrete melatonin, started to produce melatonin. So they would grow drowsy, because melatonin is a regulatory hormone, ladies and gentlemen, that regulates your wake and sleep cycles, how tired you get. It has an influence over your immunity. It's a very special hormone. So when the sun went down, our ancestors, again, there wasn't any light. So their melatonin would spike, their hormones would all become balanced, you name it. And they would grow drowsy, they would fall asleep, they would get a full night's sleep. They'd wake up refreshed and ready to tackle the day. Well, as the seasons change, ladies and gentlemen, the timing at which the sun goes down alters, it changes. So what we're trying to do with the blue blockers, and I hope this makes sense. It makes sense to me, but sometimes I fear it doesn't come out making as much sense as it should. So we wear the blue blockers when the sun goes down because we are trying to trick the brain into thinking that the sun is actually down. So when you go inside and you don't have the glasses on and you turn on your LEDs, your television, your smartphones, your tablets, all of these lighting or systems, these electronics, carry with it blue light. And blue light is a wavelength of light that is contained within the sun. It's part of the solar spectrum, or the color spectrum. And when it goes into your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, it tells your brain to not suppress melatonin. So it throws your cycles, your hormones, all out of alignment, your neurotransmitters, you name it. The effects that this has on your health in the long run are drastic. And it is very underestimated by most people. Most doctors don't even know anything about this. It blows my mind. So the blue blockers are a shield that we can use to trick the brain into a more natural biorhythm or solar rhythm, if that makes sense. And I really hope it does, because this is so crucial for you to understand if you are serious about getting your health on track. I cannot stress this enough. I know people personally who've been, I know a handful of people who have reached out to me and said, you know, I like your message, but I just can't seem to, I don't want to do the glasses. It's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. So if that's your thing, go ahead. So many people are going to fall into that bracket. But what I will say is that it's absolutely ridiculous that you're not willing to at least try this for a month, preferably 3 months. Try it for 3 months. Watch how much better your sleep gets. So with the blue blockers, ladies and gentlemen, with the UVEX Skypers, you're tricking your brain into you're telling your brain that you're in darkness, because it's blocking out the wavelengths of light, the blue light from your devices, your light bulbs, etc., that normally would go into your eyeballs and tell your brain to be alert. And it does that. It tells your brain to be alert at the expense of instructing it not to secrete melatonin. This leads to something known as endless summer syndrome, which you should absolutely do more research on. And if you're interested in doing more research on that, you need to check out T.S. Wiley's book, Lights Out, Sleep, Sugar, and Survival. Chronic exposure to artificial lighting when the sun goes down leads to endless summer syndrome. And endless summer syndrome, ladies and gentlemen, makes you crave carbohydrates because you think the winter's coming. Your brain does, at least. Your internal sundial mechanisms, your environmental triggers, etc. It's a very complicated thing. We are supposed to be intimately in sync with the solar cycles, the lunar cycles, the celestial cycles, and the changing of the seasons. So if the seasons change around us, ladies and gentlemen, the solar cycles and the lunar cycles operate perfectly, like a well-lubricated clock around us, but we don't spend our time outdoors. We spend the majority of our lives indoors, and indoors, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a artificially created environment where the lighting is all out of alignment and has nothing to do with the natural lighting cycles of the solar and lunar cycles. So by spending the majority of your time indoors, ladies and gentlemen, you're living in an artificial universe, so to speak, where the lighting stays on until pretty much it's time for you to go to bed. The effects that this has on your brain alone, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, your melatonin, your prolactin levels, you name it, is drastic. I can't even express how detrimental. It is just incredible that this has gone over our heads to the degree that it has. It blows my mind. So in the early 1900s, ladies and gentlemen, people typically slept from 9.5 to 10.5, believe it or not, 9.5 to 10.5 hours a night. But nowadays, with the advent or with the weaponization of the light bulb, I mean, everything has lighting in it nowadays. You can stay up to whenever you want. Or it's inspired us to stay up way too late. Let's just put it that way. Now, the lighting systems were detrimental back then because they allowed us to stay up late and read and do things that kept us busy. The lighting systems nowadays are 10 million fold more dangerous than they were when they were first invented. And it's because they have been weaponized with absolutely massive amounts of blue light. These wavelengths of light that instruct your brain to not secrete melatonin. It fucks your neurotransmitters. And it's not just from it going into your eyeballs, ladies and gentlemen. When it hits your skin, it has a negative effect as well. And that's something that I'm trying to learn to mitigate. And that's why I've gone throughout my house and changed all the lighting to incandescent light bulbs, folks. They're not perfect, but they're much better than the LEDs and all the energy-saving crap that's around nowadays. The energy-saving light bulbs are horrible. I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll talk about that more in the near future. So again, with the UVEX Skypers, what you're doing is you're tricking your brain into you now have a mechanism, let's just put it this way, with the UVEX Skypers, where you can put these on indoors and still do everything that you're doing indoors with the lights on, while at the same time tricking your brain into matching the swing of the solar and lunar cycles around you. I hope that makes sense. So with the UVEX Skypers, you block significant amounts of blue light from entering into your eyes, and because of that, your brain starts to secrete melatonin. So what you're doing is that you're telling your brain that it's dark out, even though there's light you're in an environment of light. So I'm not saying that this is a foolproof system. The idea that just a simple pair of glasses alone is the end-all be-all is ridiculous, but it is, ladies and gentlemen, a huge upgrade, and I've seen this work miracles not only on myself, but multiple people have contacted me and told me directly that, holy crap, now after leaving these on for 3 hours when the sun goes down, when I go to bed, I fall asleep very quickly. And that's just what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you actually start producing and secreting melatonin. You see, most of you guys have something that I've coined, or that I call TLS, toxic light syndrome. This is I've talked about this in previous videos. I don't want to make this video too long, so if you want to learn more about TLS, go watch my older videos. But basically, you guys haven't had proper, most of you watching this video right now probably have not had proper melatonin production for your entire life. For your entire life. And this is why so many people are goddamn insane and act crazy. It's because your hormones, your neurotransmitters, your regulatory systems in your body that are intimately connected to lighting, natural lighting, are all thrown out of alignment. And when you're out of alignment, how can you expect to be in alignment? Wake up. You're not falling asleep, most of you guys, because you're the way you should. You should be falling asleep because your brain and your body downregulates in the absence of light and through the production of melatonin and these other sleep-related constituents that your brain produces. Most of you guys are not falling asleep because of the production of melatonin. You're falling asleep because your body's absolutely exhausted. And because of that, you enter into a completely different form of sleep in comparison to what your sleep would be like if you fell asleep as a byproduct of proper melatonin synthesis and secretion. The two are completely different. You can't even compare the two. So it's someone recently said, oh, you're a snake oil salesman, you try to sell all these things. Ladies and gentlemen, for years, I've literally told you that if there's anything I wish you would buy from these videos, first of all, I don't even sell them. I provide a link via Amazon, and if you buy them through the link, I get like 2 pennies. Thanks. Make like $200 a year tops, not even, through Amazon affiliate links. So shut the hell up. But for years, I've told you that if you could do 2 things from watching this video, or my videos, if you could invest in the blue blockers and invest in some grounding. I'll throw magnesium in there for sure. But at the end of the day, if I could get you just to invest in a pair of UVEX Skypers and do the protocol, I mean, that's what I would hope that you would get from these videos, because once you start resting well, all the puzzle pieces start to connect, ladies and gentlemen. All of the disconnected loose ends, they just start to connect, because that's what happens. You cannot achieve health without rest. It is impossible. In the same way that your devices that you use that spew all the blue light into your eyes and destroy your health cannot continue to function or operate without electricity, without being plugged in for the battery to recharge, you cannot achieve health without recharging. It is impossible, ladies and gentlemen. And this culture does not in any way, shape, or form uplift or venerate sleep. It venerates go, grind the gears, eat low fat, do all these weird, it's just like this insane matrix that we've all woken up in. It's disgusting. And they, to a large extent, they use the people who run the show here, ladies and gentlemen, know what they're doing with lighting. They do. Lighting has been so subtle that it's gone over the minds of the masses. And because it's gone over the minds of the masses, it's one of the #1 assaults on your system that goes unnoticed. And the Matrix knows this. The Matrix knows that by taking you out of alignment with your proper hormone production, your sleep regulatory systems, you name it, through lighting, by taking you out of alignment with lighting, They can keep you sick, confused, and absolutely manageable. Why? Because you're not rested. And when you're not rested, you're easily led. And you need all these stimulants and medications to function, you name it, this, that, and the other. You end up eating way too many carbohydrates because of your lack of sleep. You crave them because of chronic light exposure, especially long into the evening. I mean, come on, wake up, ladies and gentlemen. It's funny, if you do some research, if you do a little digging, there are extreme cases of longevity in places where the light bulb, how would I explain this? Excuse me, you guys. In the early 1900s, not everybody had electricity, not everybody had light bulbs. It took a while until they could be mass produced so that everyone could get them. And when they first came out, they were for the wealthy. So there were certain places here in the United States that ended up not getting lighting until way later on. And these, you know, if we look at certain farms where they didn't take on modern lighting for a long, long time afterwards. I hope this is making sense. Jesus Christ. Let's put it this way. As lighting became very easy and commonplace, as lighting became easy to obtain, the majority of people in the United States adopted it because it seemed so great. But there were a handful of farms, believe it or not, that did not adopt the lighting systems for a long time, years and years and years. And if you look at some of their cases of longevity, it's incredible. So in no way, shape, or form is that an accurate piece of proof showing that if you don't use modern lighting, you'll live really long. But it is interesting, ladies and gentlemen, and I can't remember the exact statistic. I'll have to look it up and show you guys in an upcoming video. But I do find it interesting that in many places where they didn't adopt modern lighting for years after it came out, those people ended up living very long lives. So, I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Life is not supposed to be complicated. It's supposed to be relatively simple. And through the simplicity, we unlock the mysteries of nature and we discover the complexities of nature. That's a total contradiction, but it's so true. Life is not supposed to be complicated by having to deal with all this matrix bullshit. When we live simple lives, we begin to notice the complexity of nature. And it's not necessarily complex in the way that most people view complex. It's more intricate. There are multiple different moving parts to this. I mean, if you watch the rising and the setting of the sun and the movement of the celestial bodies, that alone is incredibly intricate. It's like a very well lubricated divine clock. But when we don't notice those simplistic intricacies in nature, when we're taken out of its normal, the biorhythms of nature, when we don't watch the sun set and rise every morning and every night. I mean, we don't. We live to serve the matrix. We are slaves to the matrix, ladies and gentlemen. So by mimicking a natural solar and lunar cycle, by wearing the glasses when the sun goes down, you can start to tap into that ancestral wavelength that our ancestors used to tap into naturally by just existing. So I really hope that makes sense. I want to try to summarize it one more time. We wear the UVX Skypers when the sun goes down. I usually do it about 10 minutes after the sun goes down, because even as the sun's going down, there's a little bit of light, so I wait until it's all gone. 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit longer. Then I throw those bad boys on, preferably while I'm outside watching the sun go down. Watching the sun go down triggers a certain sundial ancestral mechanism within our environmental triggers and our hormone systems, ladies and gentlemen. It's literally telling your brain, okay, lights are out, let's start to produce melatonin. So then you put the glasses on. That way, when you go inside, ladies and gentlemen, and you're exposed to all the blue light, you're blocking the majority of it, and your brain still thinks that the sun's down. This is just a hack. This is not, again, a foolproof method. It is the best method so far that I've found, however. I'm still working on it. I've told you guys multiple times that changing your light bulbs to incandescence and using orange, yellow, and red lighting can help a lot. We'll talk about that in the near future. But for now, I want to try to bring that picture home and really get you to understand why we're putting the glasses on when the sun goes down. If you were to go outside and watch the sun go down, ladies and gentlemen, and not put the glasses on and then go indoors and turn the lights on, you're going to throw your systems all out of alignment because your internal mechanisms just watched the sun go down, and all those wavelengths of light and the radiation of the sun literally were triggered your brain. Okay, it's time to downregulate. And then you go inside and you turn your lights on and you're fried with that intense lighting. And your hormones and your internal mechanisms are just like this. It's no wonder why people's behavior is like this. It's insane. A lot of the insanity here in the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen, is a direct byproduct of lighting systems and constantly having endless summer syndrome. Believe it or not, doesn't matter to me. It's the truth regardless of whether you want to integrate it or not. I'm here to tell you that lighting is the key. It is the medicine of the future, ladies and gentlemen, that always was here. We've just ignored it by living in our artificial New World Order kill pod cocoons called our houses, where we're exposed to massive amounts of electromagnetic frequencies from routers, devices, dirty electricity, and all this crap, and we're exposed to all this lighting and the bad food in our homes. Our homes need an exorcism. So what I do is I put those glasses on when the sun goes down, and I wear them until it's time to go to bed. And I've also gone into my room and taped up any electronics that might be putting off any lights. That way, when I do take the glasses off, I'm in complete darkness, like I'm in a cave, a regeneration cave. You'll notice, you guys, that many of the big companies that produce lighting, not only do they have military connections and all sorts of weird connections, but they have standby lights so that when the light's off, for instance, I have these LED lamps for my plants, my indoor plants. And when the light's actually off, a standby light turns on that emits blue light. It's this little blue diode. And I believe that a lot of these devices have standby lights for a reason. It's to suppress melatonin. And yes, even a small amount of blue light coming into your eyes at the wrong time suppresses melatonin. So many people have devices that are technically on the off setting, but the off setting turns on a standby light. And some of these tiny little blue LEDs just one tiny little blue LED can illuminate an entire room. You've got to block those as well. Electrical tape is your best friend, or ideally you can just unplug the damn thing. So in the near future, I'm going to show you guys how to mitigate dirty electricity as well. There's devices that you can use to plug into your walls. There's ways to mitigate a lot of the EMF and all the crap. One of the greatest things that I've discovered, which is kind of more of like a folk remedy, there's no actual evidence to prove it, but what I've found on my own system, on myself, and many people would agree with me, and they've tried it, is that just placing shungite around your house in a grid is highly beneficial for the mitigation of electromagnetic frequencies. It creates like a shield of sorts. And then on top of that, after you've gridded around your house, you take shungite pieces and you place them on all of your electronics. The shungite, I don't know if it's the fullerene compounds, the fact that it produces its own electrical current, or the fact that it's filled full of carbon, I'm not sure, but the shungite, when you place it on devices, electronics, it seems to attenuate the electromagnetic frequencies and make them not harmful. I'm not saying that they're not completely unharmful, but it seems to make a huge, huge difference. So that's just something that I do. It's not the only thing that I've done. It is a cheap method, though, that everyone should try. I do indeed sell shungite. If you want a package of shungite, just leave your contact information in the comment section below, and I will contact you. There's a handful of things that we can do on a consistent basis, ladies and gentlemen, to make our health better. You've just got to do it. So here's the ending formula before I wrap things up. Normally, if we weren't in the Matrix, when the sun went down, we wouldn't be exposed to electronics. Let me rephrase this. In an ideal world, when the sun went down, we wouldn't expose ourselves to harmful lighting. There are technologies for healthy lighting, but those are suppressed, so it's not even worth bringing that up. In an ideal world, when the sun went down, we wouldn't be exposed to lighting systems that have blue light in them and all the other wavelengths that are destroying your health. So naturally, when our ancestors, when the sun would go down, they would have firelight, you name it. And although that does suppress melatonin to some extent, it's not the same, it's nothing like blue light. So I keep repeating myself. Holy crap, I'm going to wrap this one up right now with this formula. Excuse me, guys. When the sun goes down, ideally, you'd leave the lights off. And when the lights are off, your brain starts to secrete melatonin. You grow tired because melatonin is a regulatory hormone that regulates your circadian rhythm. You would then grow drowsy, fall asleep, and wake up as the sun rises, so on and so forth. You'd have a natural hormone reaction and internal mechanism reactions through the environmental triggering systems of the lighting systems around you through the sun. That was a mouthful, excuse me. And as the seasons changed, you would stay up later because the sun would stay up later, like in summer. And then, you know, as the seasons changed, you would naturally spend less time. I think you catch my drift, excuse me. So with the sunglasses, what you're doing is you're just using a pair of glasses that block wavelengths of blue light so that you can trick your brain into living a more ancestral pattern. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to wrap this one up, you guys. I love you all. Peace be with you.